Hello, my name is Catharina, and as you can see, I am a white Christian woman living in the United States, and I am here to talk about gender, religious, and racial bias. Though there are laws that try to prevent gender, racial, and religious bias, they are still prominent today and spread hate and inequality all over our nation. The past few years, I have noticed a lot of discrimination, whether it was among my peers, or the workforce, or even in the news, in the media, and especially our president, Donald Trump. During the elections, there was a lot of controversy over immigrants, Muslims, and women. As a daughter of an immigrant, I was alarmed at what was going on and how much discrimination was brought out in the open. As an example, though we have laws such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin, 53 years later, we still have a problem. An example is May 27, 2016, when Trump made a comment about an Indiana-born judge, Gonzalo Curiel, saying he could not do his job properly due to the conflict of interest with a lawsuit against one of Trump's companies. Trump said because Gonzalez had his Mexican heritage and due to a probable conflict of interest with Trump wanting to build a wall between United States and Mexico, he said that Curiel could not do his job properly. I am a daughter of a German immigrant. I have never had a problem with my German heritage and me doing my job properly. So I am not sure where Donald Trump is getting his information from, but as far as I know, I can do my job pretty well, being half German. In 2016, during the election, hate crimes spiked 20%. In July 2017, an Chicago official sent racist emails after a string of shootings that happened July 4th weekend, and that was only the beginning of the emails that were uncovered. One was about the shootings that happened that weekend, calling it the Chicago Safari tickets. That was even just the tip of the iceberg, and who knows how many other companies are out there stringing this racial hate among to other employees. For women, even in 2017, we are still treated less than men. We are 79 cents to every dollar a man earns, even after 54 years after the Equal Pay Act. In many high-paying jobs, the majority are still men, and a 2010 Law Society review found that women had a hard time progressing the career ladder due to lack in flexible work opportunities. Only 6% of CEOs in Fortune 500 companies are women, and why? Men often feel threatened by assertive women and don't believe that women can handle a top position. Thanks to our culture, women often get discouraged and back out of promotions and are often more harshly criticized than men. According to a New York Times article, married men with families are often more desirable to employers than women with families who have the same qualifications. When it comes to religion, I can't say that I am completely innocent by not having any biased opinions. A few years ago, a friend offered me to go to a mosque for Humanity Day. I said, sure, why not? He said, well, if you come along, can you dress modestly and cover your head? First I was like, well, what is this? Why would I cover my head? This is America. I live, in today's world. Why should I cover my head and degrade myself as a woman? He said, no, it's not to cover, it's not to degrade women. It's mostly just out of modesty, just as if you were going to church and dressing nicely. So I agreed, and I put a headscarf on and went to the Humanity Day. As soon as I got to the mosque, I saw lots of women there. Some had their heads covered. Some even went as far out where I could only see their eyes, and they scared me. I didn't know anything about them, and who were these covered women who walked so elegantly and didn't care what anybody thought of them. When I walked inside, I sat next to 2 other girls with their heads covered. And as I was listening to them, whispering along as people were getting awards for helping the Muslim community, or non-Muslims helping the Muslim community, I noticed that they had no accents, and they even asked me afterwards to have refreshments with them. So I did. I learned that one was getting their undergrad at CMU, while the other one was getting her PhD at Pitt. Here, I thought that Muslim women weren't allowed any education and just stayed at home and let the men do everything. Boy, was I wrong. These girls became one of my best friends, and I was so ashamed of what I thought of them earlier, and it really opened my eyes to how I saw the world and my biased opinions. How can we reduce these ignorance towards women, religion, and race by becoming that is becoming so acceptable? Even leaders of our countries can amuse themselves along with the nations. First of all, education is the key. Second, start at home with your kids. Teach them to respect other religions, people who are different, other cultures, just anybody who is different from you. Recognize people for their own attributes rather than stereotyping them culturally. Dislodge the ingrained stereotype that men are the breadwinners and women must stay home. Counter negative stereotypes with positive examples, such as somebody saying awful racial comments. You can say, well, look, we had Barack Obama as a president. We have Oprah Winfrey. For women's inequality, provide education for women, giving them leadership skills, as well as options for mentorship to help give them the confidence that they need to prove that they are worthy, as well as educating men on women's rights. Also, have jobs provide leniency in the workforce for women who have families. And most of all, beware of the media and the propaganda that they feed. Thankfully, I have had a lot of experience where I have learned and am still learning to overcome different bias. My job is run by Women in Power, as well as having strong women as role models in my family. By putting myself in situations where I can learn different people and cultures and different religions to open my eyes to injustice today that seems so prominent and openly acceptable. As a famous Jewish rabbi, Abraham Joshua Heschel, says, racism is man's greatest threat to man. The maximum hatred for a minimum of reason. So how many minutes was that?